Hey, everybody, this is the Rug Rescue Live. Yeah, Rug Rescue, our new podcast. We're only 5 in. Tonight's going to make it number 6, and we're really excited about this. We've been having some great reviews come back to us. I appreciate the phone calls that I've gotten. A couple of text messages saying, hey, I really like this. This is cool. It's different. And we know it's not 100% different. There are some similarities, obviously, to the Rug Room Live. But this is going to be a bit different. And as we go and we grow and try to learn how to do this a little bit better and put on a better show for you guys, I'm hoping we will achieve that. We'll see newer things. We'll see some interviews. We'll see some specific subjects talked about. And there are some ones that I want to really get into that I think people would enjoy. And as we move along, we will get into that. But what is Rug Rescue? Well, the whole premise is hey, we get phone calls all the time, Paul and I do. And most of the time when we get these calls, it's a 911 call. It's I'm dealing with this. What the heck? What do I do? How do I handle it? And Paul and I go into, damage control. And we start asking questions, trying to figure out what we can do to save this over the phone. And it can be from someone who just started cleaning rugs to someone who's been doing it 30 years. We get it all, especially for Paul. I mean, Paul, with him, a lot of times he's getting calls from the guy who's been doing it 50, 60 years. He's been around that long. So, I mean, he's going to get those, So tonight we got another subject. And Paul, tell us a little bit about the subject you got a call on. And let's go through it and let's talk about it.
Okay, so this is a call I got just really a few weeks ago, but I want to comment that I've gotten a similar call probably 100 times, and I'm sure you have too, Cam, because it's a very common situation that we're all in the last several years, and that is 100% rayon rugs. And some clean up better than others. Some are a total nightmare. Sometimes customer expectation levels are very high. Some cleaners don't realize they're any different and they clean them like they clean a wool rug. So we get all kinds of different situations, but the odds of having difficulty with a rayon rug is pretty high. So I get this call, a carpet cleaning background. But they're cleaning rugs. They have a site that they clean at, so they're not doing them on location. They're mainly doing them at their shop. He goes ahead and has the rug cleaned. It looks great when they clean it. It looks great when they're done. They go home, and the next morning they come back to work, and it has discolored. No problem, because these guys are professional cleaners. They've been doing this for a while. So what they do is they just go ahead and clean it again. And it looked great. They did all their other work that day. They checked on it. It was looking good. They come back the following morning and looks bad, discolored overnight. So he's going, I don't want to just keep on cleaning it. Is it, what do I do? Do I take it back to the customer? I got to do something. So what I did is it's like I always say, test, test, test. There isn't a silver bullet for every problem in the book. You have to kind of work with things. So I said, well, the thing that's causing the discoloration is called lignin. And rayon is made from cellulosic material. So they take whatever kind of plant, sometimes it's in the name like bamboo silk, type of thing. But they're taking some kind of plant and they're dissolving it. And then they're extruding the material that they've cooked up. And there's still lignin in it. Now, lignin is the glue that holds all the cells in the plant together. So if you've ever ran into a tree with your body or your car at a pretty good rate of speed, you realize that lignin's pretty strong stuff because the tree doesn't fall down when you hit it. It stays and your body breaks or your car breaks or both. So the lignin is a strong glue. The problem is it has color.
What?
So
What?
what the situation is somebody's got to mute Anthony. That's our first situation. But with lignin, the lower the
Let's see,
pH,
if I don't wake you, then that means I accepted it.
Sorry about that, Paul. You're good. Go ahead.
okay, the lower the pH of the lignin, the less color it has. And the higher the pH of the lignin, the darker it gets. And that's just a characteristic of this material. So I said, because of that, one of the things you want to test is get the pH of that rug down between the pH of 2 and the pH of 3. Because in that realm of being that acidic, the lignin kind of disappears. Now it's still there, but it doesn't have a lot of color, so it makes it acceptable. And that's why you hear a lot of people say, you know, you got to keep the pH low with cellulosic material because of that discoloration. However, it's still there, so I don't like that. So then what I said to him was, test that in one little tiny area and see how that works. And then in another area, what you want to take is hydrogen peroxide, 3%. And you want to take a test area, apply it, get it wet with it, just like you do with the acid. You know, don't mist it on lightly, get it wet. And then work it in a tiny bit and then let it sit. You know, just let it do its thing.
Let me go ahead and jump in here, Paul, because now we've kind of talked about the lignin a little bit, and here's where we get a little bit different from what we normally would do. This is where I want to jump into this and go, okay, now this call's coming to me. You and I handle calls a little bit different. Luckily, we get the same result most of the time. But from what you've told me, my first question I'm coming at you with, Paul, and I'm betting you asked this, how did you clean it? I need to know, number one, what product did they use? I need to know what method did they use? Did they, put LST on it and bonnet it off? Did they put LST on it, brush it in? Did they go rayon rug shampoo? If they did they go 2 ounces in and do first in, last out? Did it have urine? Did they go triple D 2 ounces in and then go with the procedure? All these things come into my mind first because I need to know what went into that rug and how they did it. Or did they clean it with a portable? So my question to you is, when you were talking to them, how were they cleaning it? Did we find that out to help us determine and start putting this puzzle together?
Well, you know, that's the trouble with communication. You know, I already know what happened. And so I'm assuming that people are going to know, but they don't. So you raise some valid ideas there, Cam. But this young man did it correctly. I mean, when I asked him, he did everything like he should have. So, because again, that I'm doing the same. You are, well, how'd you clean it? You know, it turned discolored on you. What'd you clean it with? Traffic light cleaner, the pH of 13.5. You know, so I talked to him and he told me what products he used and how he cleaned it. You know, all those things. Now they did use hot water extraction with a truck mount, but you know, that's how they clean a lot of their rugs, especially when they're synthetic. And
okay, let me stop you there, because this is how I would do it in the conversation with the client. You just mentioned something. So right when the person calling me says, I'm doing hot water extraction or I'm doing with a portable, I'm going to say, okay, did you take the rayon rug shampoo and did you cut it in half and go 4 ounces per gallon? Did you stay at the 8 ounces and pre-spray it and work it in and then start cleaning? Did you feel like you needed to use a rinse and you were running a rinse through the truck mount? Those are some of the things that pop into my mind because I've had issues. And here's why I mentioned the rinse through the system real quick, Paul. I've had issues where someone did a surface clean and I'm trying to put this puzzle together. I'm going crazy trying to figure it out. Come to find out, when they were cleaning it, they didn't have a rinse. They had an emulsifier, and they had a higher pH emulsifier, and that was the culprit. It was just too high. It was causing issues. So that's why I bring that one up. Go ahead.
Yep. Well, in this case, they rinsed with water because they were afraid, so they just rinsed with water. They turn their pressure down. They turn their temperature down. They did use rayon rug shampoo. So, when they explained it all, and then the other thing is it was looking good. Everything seemed to be working fine.
Right.
So they felt like they had succeeded. And even on the second cleaning, it had a long time to dry and it still looked good. So these were all at the final stages of drying.
So let me ask you this, Paul, and again, so everybody knows, I'm going to be interrupting Paul quite a bit as we do this, because this is how we do it on the phone. When he talked about the dry time, Paul, was he hanging the rug? Were they drying it on a concrete floor possibly? Were they drying it in a wash pit? Drying it in their office, their home? Where were they drying it at? Were you able to find that out?
They dried it on the floor, on their wash floor.
Okay. And is their wash floor concrete, or did they have an elevated wash floor of some kind? Do we know? Or
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember on this one. It just I kind of went to okay, you did everything you were supposed to do. And I said to him, if you would have called me, I probably would have told you to do it the way you did it with the equipment you had. So I was trying to get him to understand that there are procedures to test, and then the rug will tell you what works. And as we say in class, as you well know, listen to the rug. So Absolutely. I'm basically saying, we're going to ask the rug 3 questions. Do you like to be at a pH of 2.5? Do you like to be oxidized? Or do you like to be reduced? Those are the 3 questions he's going to answer. And then he's going to listen to the rug, and the rug's going to tell him. They all work. None of them work. One of them works, So that's what I kind of went with it, because he was kind of explaining to me in the sense that we do this all the time. They always come out good. Why is this one not coming out good? So, I didn't want to argue with him about it. I was like going, well, hey, if you got a system that works for you and you're happy, let's just take it to the next step of how do we fix something when our system fails us.
So now you got through all that. You find out, the drying was good. The way he applied the product was good. Everything was fine. He didn't do a full wash like we might do, but you determined that it wasn't soil or any of the stuff. You figured out it was definitely the lignin. So did he figure out which direction? Did the hydrogen peroxide, which seems to always be the hero when it comes to this lignin issue, did the hydrogen peroxide start to take care of the problem?
Okay, well, let me talk about that for a second, because I explained about the pH, but then I got interrupted when I was trying to explain about the hydrogen peroxide.
Who could have done that? Who could have interrupted you? The great Paul Lucas. Who would ever do that?
So hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizer. So it's going to destroy the color. It's not going to make it disappear because the pH is low. That will return when the pH is high. This is going to take and damage the lignin so that it doesn't have color anymore. So this is a more aggressive procedure than using an acid treatment. So I told him 3%. I told him if he could put it in the sun, that'd be great. If he can't, he can use a UVA black light, or he can just dry with the lights he has. And he may have to do it 2 or 3 times. But test, we're only talking about doing a quarter size area. We're not talking about doing one end of the rug.
Right.
And then I told him the one I thought was most effective. So I'm going from weakest to strongest. The most effective would be using reduction. And so he could use problem reducing rug shampoo if he thinks, that would work. Or he could go, which I told him I would probably go to a dye stripper, and I would start at probably 1/2 ounce per gallon rate, which is about 0.5%. Maybe try another spot and mark it so you can find it at 1%, and then maybe another tiny area at approximately 2%, which is approximately 2 ounces per gallon. And then come back the next day and listen to the rug and which one came out the best. And if he tells me that all 3 of them worked, they all did it, then use the hydrogen peroxide, because I don't have to rinse it. Hydrogen peroxide turns into humidity or water, and it turns into oxygen or atmosphere, and it's gone with no residue. So if you can get away with it, hydrogen peroxide is your favorite because it's the least amount of work, least amount of residue. However, if it doesn't work, you're probably going to have to go with the reduction. And so therefore, with that, you're probably going to have to rinse, which lays another layer of it maybe turning color again. But here's an interesting point. If you manufacture cellulosic-based materials and you want them to be white or light in color, the way you process the lignin out and remove the discoloration from lignin, let's say you're making copier paper and you want the copy paper to be white, or you're making a garment, a white garment, the manufacturer uses, in most cases, reduction to achieve that. So if the manufacturers are going to reduction, then it makes sense that we would do the same thing. And then the lignin has been eliminated, and a lot better than an acid treatment, which only alters it. So let's just get rid of it. And then we don't have to worry about future discolorations from the area that we treated. So I told him to do all 3 and let me know how it worked. I never really got feedback, so sorry.
No, that's fine, Paul. So, one of the things too, that I want to kind of, and by the way, everybody, this is podcast number 6, but it looked beautiful. But that continuing fight with Viscose, podcast number 6, that's what this one's about. And we're trying to give you a little insight about that lignin and about how we take these calls. So, Paul, here's something that I run into with newer folks, I think, that haven't been to the Wednesday nights or been to our class. When I get that first initial call, they're going, well, I hit it with this extreme acid. They always run to the acid side right away. They're not even thinking reduction. They're not really thinking oxidation. They're just thinking the normal everyday rinse that all the carpet cleaners use. And, I have found that it seems like that never solves the problem. It just doesn't. And it always comes down to, most of the time, it like you just said, it's either going, okay, let's start over from scratch. Let's go with problem reducing rug shampoo or a stripper and put a light coat and re-clean. But the hydrogen peroxide has been the number one. Now, I want to bring up one more quick subject about this before we end this podcast number 6. One of the things that I get questions on as well is people will say to me, I've done it it took me 3 times to get it. Now, we know viscose is a different fiber. Oxidation works pretty well on viscose at times. When we think going from that 3 to 6%, when we think of that in the world of oxidation with hydrogen peroxide, I mean, we don't even go to 3 to 4%. We want to stay at 3 when we're dealing with wool. When we're dealing with the viscose and the rayon, can we go to that 4, 5, 6, 7%? Is that a more justified and not so much worried about? Would that benefit us a little more going there? Or should we still stay with that 3%?
Okay. 3% is what, to get right to the end, 3% is what you should use, or less. Okay. If 1.5% works, use 1.5%. What you have to realize is oxidation is stealing electrons from the fiber and the lignin and the dyes. So
like a green little container.
somebody needs to mute.
Got it.
So it's going to alter the fiber. It's going to it's going to cause damage. There's just no getting around it. I know some people argue with me about it, but if you take a object and you start taking parts out of it, it's weaker. Okay, it's just common sense. You can't start stealing parts of the molecule without having it weaker. However, you can do a little bit and get an improvement in appearance without causing too much physical damage. That's where we come up with this number 3%. And a very good analogy, which is really almost not even an analogy, it is almost exactly what you're doing, is to think of oxidation as heat. So the rapid oxidation, if we do that, if we oxidize materials rapidly, we have a word for that, and that word is combustion. So if you use too strong or too aggressive of oxidation, it's too hot and it burns it. So when you say let's go from 3% to 6%, what people have to imagine is if that was heat. So let's say I want to cook something. So I want to be able to eat it. So I want to set it at 200 degrees Fahrenheit to warm it up. Well, that's like 3% hydrogen peroxide. It'll get us what we want by heating it up. But if I jump to 6, that doubles it. So now instead of being 200 degrees, it's 400 degrees. Well, if we grab onto a 400 degree plate or bowl or put 400 degree food in our mouth, what's going to happen? It's going to cause some damage to us. We're going to be in pain. We're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to burn something. We're going to have blisters. Okay, so now let's turn around and let's increase that again and go, to 12%. Well, now you're at 800 degrees. You're going to burn yourself 3rd degree. You're going to need to go to the hospital. Well, some people. You're going to burn the food so it doesn't taste good anymore. So think of oxidation percentages. It's a serious increase in the amount of damage you do. So you're much wiser to do 4 applications with time in between of 3% than you are to do 1 application of 12%. Because the 12% is going to damage it.
Yeah.
And 3% times 4 times is going to get the results, but no damage, no perceivable damage.
Absolutely, Paul.
So just think of it like that.
I'm really glad you mentioned taking the 3% and even cutting it in half, because really not enough people do that. They always think that you still have to go with the 3. I tell you, we do it a lot. We go down to cutting it in half. And I'm telling you, you will be shocked on how often it works. And I'm just one of those. I'm going to do as little harm as I can. I'm always trying to find the safest way. So please keep that in mind if you're watching this podcast tonight. Again, podcast number 6. We really appreciate you being here. Now, we do have some people. Go ahead, Paul. You got something you want to say real quick?
I just want to add something along that same line. Today on the internet, I got into a texting discussion on one of the boards, and somebody wanted to lighten up some, I believe it was upholstery, but they wanted to use hydrogen peroxide, and they just asked some questions. They go, I put it in the sun and it came out beautiful. How do I duplicate that? Am I doing anything wrong? And one of the posters, who I'm sure is an excellent cleaner and a good businessman, I'm sure all those things, good person, they suggested that they use ultraviolet light, UVB. UVB is strong or medium strong ultraviolet light. And I hate to contradict people, but I ended up posting and saying, well, in my opinion, UVA is a better wavelength because it's less damaging.
Yeah.
And UVB works faster and is stronger, but UVB is going to cause damage. Now, again, an analogy that is really not an analogy. It really is real life, but just so we can think about it properly, 95% of the ultraviolet light that comes from the sun that passes through our atmosphere and hits our upholstery or our skin, 95% of that is UVA. And you know, if you go out in the sun with your skin exposed, you will get a suntan. You'll get you could even get a sunburn. And most of that is UVA. Now, that's getting most of the work done. Now you go to UVB and you go out in the sun, that's where you get burnt. That's where you get blisters. That's where you get skin cancer. Does it work faster? Oh, yeah. Is it more effective at changing the color? Oh, you betcha. But is it wise? No.
No.
You're better off using UVA. And UVB, about 5% of the light that hits the earth through the atmosphere of ultraviolet spectrum is UVB. So yeah, it's very aggressive because it's a very tiny percentage and it still causes skin cancer and burning and blistering. UVC doesn't make it to the ground because the atmosphere absorbs it all. Fortunately, thank God. Okay, so again, the same analogy. The gut tells us, being young American boys, more is better. Stronger is better. Aggressive is better. But the fact of the matter is, UVA will do the job for us with much less chances of any kind of damage. So again, try to avoid the nasty stuff and stick with the wimpy stuff, especially when you're dealing with fine furniture and fine rugs. You know, we're not cleaning plastic here. We're not, you know, I know Viscose is kind of the bottom of the market, but you know, we kind of specialize in high-end textiles, and we don't want to be like the janitor whose job it is to clean the dumpster out. You know, I mean, you can get pretty aggressive with the dumpster or the concrete around the dumpster, but you're not doing the lampshades. You're not doing the Persian rugs. You know, you're not doing the silk pillows. So we need to be gentle.
That's absolutely right, Paul. And you know, we got some people watching us tonight. One comment came through. I'm going to comment on that, and then we're going to close this one out. Could speeding up drying time prevent the browning? You know, at times, yes. So one thing that I'll close with is, when you're doing a viscose rug that is a problem rug, you've cleaned it once, it's showing you signs of, hey, it's browning on you, it's stiff, it's doing these different things. Yes, drying fast is always a benefit if you can use it. Just like the sun can be a benefit, chemistry can be a benefit, all these things, tooling, every one of them can be a benefit. And when you have a problem going on, you need to look and analyze each and every one of them. Guys, thank you for being here for podcast number 6. This was one of, you know, hey, the rug looks beautiful, but damn, the fight with that viscose. We're going to close this one out. If anyone here tonight would like to watch podcast number 7, we are going to do another one tonight. You can stay on. We're just going to stop the recording button and take a break, and then we're going to come right back and do another one. I appreciate you being here, Paul. Always good seeing you, brother.
Great to be here. Thanks for coming.
We'll see you in the next one.